Change is nerve-wracking yet exciting. May it be in the places we've been, the people we've met, or the experiences we've had. We hold on to what is known and familiar. Yet, with these changes, we can discover the vast diversity of cultures, beliefs, and values that life demands to be experienced outside our comfort zones. Hey, Tigers! I am Denise, and welcome to a new episode of Culture Shock. As the campaign period for the 2020 Philippine elections started, we have been weighing out who the most qualified candidates are. With all the candidates vying for different positions, we, as voters, have the power to determine the future we want for our country through the people we would elect. Their credentials and morals should align with our values as Filipinos. However, what could be the case for our kababayans who are not currently living in the Philippines? Fortunately, through the Republic Act 10590 or the Overseas Voting Act of 2013, our fellow Filipinos who reside overseas now have the chance to vote for our country. But since they are away from their homeland, it may be difficult to weigh out the right people to vote for. There may also be a vast difference between the social, political, and cultural state and the country they are currently residing in. As Filipinos away from their motherland, how can they truly make their vote count? Today's episode talks about the Thomasian overseas voters for the 2022 Philippine elections as we get nearer and nearer to this event. Our guests for today, I'm not kidding you guys, from the other side of the world, is Miss Roanne Aludino, a first-year creative writing student living in Oman, and of course, Mr. Zach Dominic Taddy, a Thomasian alumna living in New York City. Hello, Zach. Hello, Roanne. Welcome to our show. How are you guys there right now?
Hello, doing good here.
Zach, how is it like?
Hello. I'm good as well.
Okay, just so you guys know, no, para sa kaalaman ng ating audience, right now in the Philippines, as we speak, it's 7:27 p.m. I want to know, what's the time there right now? Zach, in New York, anong oras dyan ngayon?
I'm 12 hours behind. It's 7:27 a.m.
Good morning to those in New York. What about Roanne? What's the time
Fortunately, I'm just around 4 hours behind, so it's around 3:28 here.
But still, no,
in the afternoon.
In the afternoon, that difference, no, it's still a lot. Okay, let's begin. Kanina, ulit-ulit ko na-emphasize, you're in Oman, USA, New York, the Philippines. These are three vastly different countries, each with its own customs. What differences have you observed between the government of the country you're in and the Philippines in terms of handling their constituents? Do they have different systems? Let's begin with Ron.
For me, there are definitely differences. The Philippines, for one, is, a democratic country, while Oman is considered to be an absolute monarchy. So all the power rests upon the Sultan. And then their constitution, their laws, it's based upon and has sources from the Sharia law since they're also an Islamic country. In terms of handling their constituents, well, both countries I've observed have provisions and other legal codes in place to protect the civil liberties and personal freedoms, but they differ in how much they give to their people and how much it's allowed. On a personal level here, I felt very safe, secured, and it's greatly because of the privilege I have with my parents who still supporting me. I'm sure it's not all sunshine and rainbows, and issues do arise here both in public and private sectors. It's very different because of the nature of their laws. And then lastly, compared to, big cities here in Manila, it's very quiet. So that can imply, a lot of different things naman. Yeah.
I'm guessing you miss the ingay. Yung ingay dito sa
Yes, definitely.
Very quiet there. Were you really culture shocked nung napunta ka dyan sa Oman?
Actually, I grew up here.
Yeah,
so I was more culture shocked when I went back home to the Philippines. Yeah.
So, what do you prefer? Like,
honestly, I do prefer Philippines because I'm a Filipino. I like the cultures, everything that I wanted to do as an individual, I was able to accomplish in the Philippines.
What's there on your side, Zach?
From my end naman, I think we all know that the United States and the Philippines share a lot similarities in terms of our political structures. Alam natin na both the US and the Philippines are republics, and we're led by presidents, and the three branches of government serve very similar functions. Although the stark difference is that the United States follow a federal form, and the Philippines is a unitary state. The distribution of powers are different. Dito, malaking factor yung state government. Kung paano nagpapatupad ng laws yung, where in my case, the state of New York, iba siya kaysa sa ibang mga estado dito sa Amerika.
It's good to know that both our guests here, they have huge difference. So it's better, no? Kasi they can share very, very wide perspectives regarding this. We have one from Oman, which is apparently absolute monarchy. And then, of course, similar to ours, New York Republic. So moving on to our next question. Did your political stance change when you lived abroad? Were they influenced by the people around you? Zach, what's your take on this?
For me, siguro kung nasa Maynila pa din ako ngayon, yung aking political perspectives ay parehas lang yung mga tao na gusto kong mamuno at mag-represent ng mga ideals na pinagtatrabahuan ko araw-araw. But I guess what's brought by this experience is the inspiration from the people around here. I've met a lot of people who are very vocal about their political views. Yung mga pinaglalaban nila na deeply rooted sa kanilang unique experiences. Lalo dito sa New York, we're very diverse. So very unique yung kanilang mga perspectives, and it's just so inspiring to hear how they stand for the things that they believe in. So para sa akin, that heightened my desire to be involved, to know more. Kagaya nitong ginagawa natin ngayon na maging mas involved in a more direct way on how we shape our country's future and the present, of course.
Totally love that, Zach. Kasi what you share there, the natives from New York, ibig sabihin talagang meron silang pinaglalaban with the candidate that they will be vying for. On the other end naman, we have Ron here from Oman. Did your political stance change when you're living there? And how did the people around you influence it?
When I used to live here, from KG to grade 10, my political views during that time was, I'd say, very indecisive, very contradictory to what I stand for right now. I think a lot of it was influenced by the people around me since bata pa ako noon. I haven't, solidified, and I haven't truly understood the grasp of what I was involving myself in. But, going back to the Philippines, I would say it opened my eyes to a lot of what was really happening in the country. Because when you're actually there, you get to realize the rights and wrongs of what you initially thought. I've changed my political stance. The people that I would vote in the Philippines, similarly to what Sir Zach said, because of the variety of tools at my disposal, and I'll carry it with me up until today.
Kanina, binanggit mo, Roanne, that during your junior high school days, you were very indecisive. I think this just highlights the gravity of voting. That's why we have to be very, very wise with our decisions on the candidates that we have to vote. So, on that note, moving into our next question, I want to know first, because me personally, I am a first-time voter for 2022. Are you both first-time voters, or have you had experiences?
I'm a first-time voter as well. Yes.
What about Zach?
My third. My third election.
Okay, I see. Okay, sige, hindi na natin i-disclose yung age, but this is the third time, and then this is the first time for the both of us. So, how's your experience as a voter, or in Ron's case, a first-time voter for the incoming Philippine election, even though you're currently living in another country? And what advice can you give to our fellow Filipinos who will also be voting overseas? Zach?
Para sa akin, this election is very different kasi yung nakaraang dalawa, I was there back home. Actually, kinalkal ko nga yung archives ko kanina, yung wallet ko. Tapos, andito pa yung, makikita ba?
OMG, yeah.
Yeah. Philippine Consulate General Overseas Voter Stub. Diba? Tapos may date pa. So, I went there last year. Actually, akala ko hindi na ako makakaboto. Kasi kalilipat ko lang dito. I'm a first year graduate student. But I really wanted to vote. Tapos minessage lang ako nung isang kaibigan ko din, a Thomasian alumnus. Tapos sinabi niya, oh, the deadline's gonna be on this day, punta ka, ganyan. I thought I wouldn't be able to come kasi malayo yung consulate nasa Manhattan, nasa gitna. Tapos I thought I didn't have time to go pero pinilit ko umabsent ako sa ilang klase para magrehistro. Tapos ang saya kasi the moment I got there, palabas ng consulate, tapos nakita ko na yung pila. Ayun, the trademark of Filipino government offices. Pero nakakatuwa, yung mga tao nakapila sila, yung consulate ay nasa isang major street. Sabi ko, ito na nga yun. Nakapila sila. Tapos the flag of the Philippines was flying like there sa labas. Oo, ang ganda. So I was so inspired, tumayo ako doon. Tapos while I was there, nakakatuwang marinig yung kwento nung nasa kaliwa mo, nasa kanan mo, iba-iba itsura nila, iba-iba ng pinanggalingan. Yeah. What I guess my point is just that it's a new experience for me, pero nakakatuwa na although I'm away from my motherland, nakakatuwang ma-experience yung fire and yung effort ng mga Pilipinong yun para pumila doon at magparehistro kasi they know that their vote really counts. Pag nagbibiroan kami ng mga kapatid ko na nasa kanila ding mga sulok ng mundo, yung biroan ay mapuso daw tayo pero isip-isip din, tapos maging tapat tayo sa kung ano yung makikita natin sa ating pagmamatsyag at pag-aaral, pakikinig sa ibang tao. May profound na direction yung ating efforts.
More than that, his insights, you also got to ask why, diba? Why are we doing this? Why are we voting for this? You have to be critical, especially with who to vote. So on your side naman, Roanne, how's your experience as a first-time voter?
I was actually very excited when I was going to register because my birthday landed. So weeks before my birthday, I was already telling my dad here, Dad, please make sure that you're off. Mag-off ka please on my birthday or the day after my birthday. But I told him, as soon as possible, can we go to the embassy? Me and my dad, we went to the embassy and we did all the necessary steps. Compared to what I've heard from my classmates back in the Philippines, the process here was less of a hassle. We went there so early, so there was barely any line. But when I was already exiting the office, I could see the line. I felt very, patriotic and happy to see them all lining up. And I even saw some of my old classmates from junior high lining up. And like him, I was also given a paper stub, just like a small stub like that. And I kept it so close just so that I wouldn't lose it. I think just pretty recently, they released an official list of overseas voters here. Right then and there, I was like looking through the PDF, like Aludino. There's Aludino. Okay. So I'm sure that I'm a registered voter. I know that my other classmates here who decided to have their online classes here also had their worries of how could I register to vote when I've already registered in the Philippines. And I told them, you can just transfer your records. It's okay. Don't worry about it. You can register. And they were very enthusiastic about it. Possibly we could even say hello and hi when we're going to vote, which, if I'm not mistaken, the voting period is open now here from April 10 to May 9, I think. Yeah, it started already yesterday. I'm going to schedule it sometime there when it's not too busy with school. And I've seen my parents here do so much work just to provide for us, for me and my siblings. I've seen my teachers here who are Filipino. They do their best to educate us, and I've seen all their hard work, even though we're very far apart from our home country. I just want to say that when you cast your vote, you don't just vote for yourself. One single vote can, change a lot in the direction that the country will be run in. So we have to be very wise, very careful in looking at the qualifications, as you've mentioned a while ago, all those sort of things, in making sure that the candidate that we put, whether that be president, vice, or in the Senate, definitely have the credentials to, back it up, the experience. And when we do decide to, engage in discourse without a sense of superiority or elitism, because it really won't bring anything good to the discussion. In my experience, you have to approach it with an open mind, patience,
empathy.
And empathy, yes. If you have empathy, you're able to talk to them in such a manner that at the end of the discussion, you've learned something from them and they've learned something from you.
I love that. I love everything about what you guys said. I love every piece of it. Siguro isa sa mga hindi ko makakalimutan pareho, you both mentioned the line, which most Filipinos dread kasi ang haba ng mga pila dito. But to see people lining up because they want to vote, yun yung mga gusto mong makitang kind of pila. Before anything else, before we move on to our next part, just a short parting message.
Siguro, boto tayo ng tama, siyempre. Pero yung inyong boto it's a very profound expression of what you work for, as I've said, what you stand for. So take that right very seriously and consider your children, your family, and the nation's future.
What about Ron?
Honest sentiment, same. When you do cast your vote, bear in mind everything, not only them, what the possibilities are in what they will be implementing. Cast your vote wisely and just stay true to what you know and what you've gathered from any pieces of information that you have. Yun.
I agree with both of you. Ang masasabi ko lang actually with this discussion that we had, your patriotism, the both of you, it's really overflowing kasi you guys still had that eagerness na walang makakahadlang sa akin kahit sa ibang bansa ako. I will still vote for the respective candidates, yung mga karapat-dapat, and bring about change in our very own country. So with that, we salute your love for the country, Roanne and Zach. Though away from the Philippines, distance did not hinder you from exercising your right to vote for a better future. But stay with us, Tigers, because as we got to talk to our guests about their experience, let us know more about their perspective on the changes in the world today in Culture Shock's brand new segment, Recommendation. This segment wants to know your take on certain recommendations or trends. We would tell scenarios regarding this topic, the upcoming elections, and you will vote, Zach, Roanne, whether you recommend or object to them. Let's start with our first recommendation. Number 1. In overseas voting, there are 2 types. We have personal voting and postal voting. Do you prefer mailing your ballot instead of going to the voting precinct? Answers in 3, 2, 1. Ooh, different answers. Zach, why do you agree with mailing?
For me, it's just an issue of convenience. It's trustworthy, and for the sake of the Filipinos who work a lot, who do 7 days a week, I think it's an easier way to cast the vote.
I would prefer going to the precinct. Unlike in the US, the postal service here, it's complicated. But I do know that the embassy has been having talks and discussions about having different centers for voting. The Filipino population is much smaller, so it's much more feasible to just go. And the timeline is also quite big when you have your walk-ins. I would prefer this method of just going into the precincts because the system right now in terms of mailing, I'm not familiar with. And syempre, first-time voter, I want to go experience
on the safer side.
Going that.
Ito naman, I'm assuming you guys are still updated with what's happening here, So many celebrities have been supporting candidates in their rallies recently. Now, if you're a candidate or you're a campaign manager, would you recommend hiring influential people as part of your campaign promotion? Let's see your answers in 3, 2, 1. No, for Zach. What about for Roanne? Same. Okay, Roanne, why don't you?
The first thing that came into mind would be some can just say that, I will campaign for this one because of a contract that was given to me or those sorts of things. And these influential people, they have a lot of fanatics who might just vote for that candidate just because that their celebrity is campaigning for them. So, nawawala yung sort of, I'm voting because this candidate is qualified and such.
What about Zach? You don't agree also? Why?
Yeah, for me, the key word is to hire. And for me, it's an absolute political right to be able to campaign for whoever is qualified for a certain position. Kung paano ina-affirm ng mga tao, how they agree to a leadership that inspires collaboration, people coming together. So of course, I would welcome the help of any influential person Pero kung gagawin nila yon out of their own free will, edi mas malakas yung kanilang boses at mas kapanipaniwalang pakinggan.
Social media is now widely utilized for campaigns and information dissemination. Is using Facebook profile frames a great way to show support for a candidate on social media? Answers in 3, 2, 1. So you both agree. Zach, why do you agree?
Dali, kasi pag nakita ka agad ng mga kaibigan mo, kasama ng mukha mo yung choice na gusto mong paninig. Although hindi ko siya ginagamit, but if you see my profile, ang laki ng cover photo ko. So I guess that should speak for itself.
Oh, what about Roanne? Do you agree with profile frame?
I'm not that active on Facebook actually, but on other social media platforms, I do see it and I do wish that I could join in it as well. I already see how much of an impact it can make. It really hypes up. It really shows, solidarity within the group. So yeah, definitely a go for the profile pictures, having those frames.
Besides social media, campaigning in the streets is still a go-to strategy for candidates up to this day. Is participating in caravans and street rallies a great way to support a candidate? Yes for both. Roanne, you agree with this?
I do think it's a great way, with the caution of we're still in a pandemic, so you need to follow the safety protocols, of course. It's just really different when you are surrounded with these people who have the same views as you, who fight for the same things that you're fighting for, those sort of things. Yeah, so I would definitely, if I could join.
Zach, you also agree to this. Why?
Yes, definitely. I agree so much to what Roanne has said. I'm actually a musician, so my experience of being in person, it's really irreplaceable. At sobrang nakakaingit makita yung pagtitipon-tipon ng mga tao sa Pilipinas. I wish I was there. Tapos ang ganda ng tugtugan. Tapos nagsishare sila ng sandwiches with each other. May dala silang inumin. Tapos lilinisin nila yung kalat nila. Nakakatuwang tingnan. I guess sabi nga ni Roanne, walang tatalo dun sa presence of a person na kasama yung katawan.
It's really that collective feeling of just being together, supporting the same candidate na meron kayong same beliefs. So that's really irreplaceable. Lastly, do you prefer doing virtual campaigns instead of door-to-door campaigns? Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1. No. Yeah. Huh? Okay, in the middle for Zach. What about Roanne?
Same as well, in the middle.
I'm curious, Zach, why are you in the middle?
Mas maraming platforms to campaign, di mas mabuti. Let's utilize all of them.
So no preference, like use all
Yeah. Alam natin, may mga taong mas maaabot ng virtual campaigns. Meron namang mas maaabot ng door-to-door, yung kampanyang tao sa tao daw.
I don't really have a preference. Whichever works for the community, whichever works for the campaign, you utilize that. There are different generations that the elections will cater for. So you play to which platform they're more active on. So you go wherever. You have to take into consideration as well the safety of those people who will be campaigning.
Yes. I really just want to emphasize then that despite yung pagiging maluwag natin with the alert levels, we're still under a pandemic. So yeah, guys, just stay safe out there. So, that's about it. Oh my gosh, I hope you both enjoyed this short conversation about the Philippine elections coming from the other side of the world. Thank you so much, Ms. Roanne Aludino and Mr. Zach Dominic Taddy, for sharing your thoughts and experiences as an overseas voter. Though away from our country, it never prevented you from using your power as a voter to spark change for the Philippines in the years to come. Everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's episode of Culture Shock. To see more of our future episodes, you can like our Facebook page, UST Tiger TV. You can also give us a follow on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok via @USTigerTV. And that ends our episode for today's Culture Shock. We hope that you take the learnings today as a guide to conquer the challenges you will encounter and use your freedom to bring about change in your country and your own lives. Again, thank you for joining us today. Yours truly, I am Denise Valdesancho, your host for this show that embraces change and new experiences. Culture Shock.